How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in. Once again, we are going to be covering and diving into the depth charts for certain positions for the Kansas City Chiefs. We've touched on the tight end position yesterday. We talked about the linebacker position. If you missed those two, be sure to go check out those two, before you come back and watch this one or listen, depending on where you are listening to or watching our podcast. Today, we're going to continue, and while this isn't necessarily a certain positional group, it has its three components for the top contenders, and that's the return options. We've touched on the return options before on the podcasts. We've dove into who would be a good option, who needs to prove themselves, and obviously then there's their guys that they have to show and prove up in the preseason games. Through the first two games of the preseason, we've seen a lot of players kind of be utilized in that position, whether they be rookies looking to get their spot on the roster, wide receivers looking to additionally also find their spot on the roster, or guys that just kind of know that they are a special teams type of player and they thrive in that. And then they determine themselves or set themselves out to be the best that they can at that position. But today, I broke down into three categories for players on the returning side of the football, whether it is in a punt return or a kick return. I think these are the prime options that you've got for the Kansas City Chiefs going into the regular season. Let's start off with the rookies. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs 2025 rookie class, they've got some speed on their side, and they also have a lot of versatility. We've seen thus far in training camp and through in the past, there's been a lot of stuff that has gone the way of the Kansas City Chiefs when drafting speedy players. Additionally, they could be used on the wide receiving side of the ball or in the punt return role. I labeled this as rookies because this is likely their position that they would be getting the most chances at. With a highly competitive wide receiving room in Kansas City, it could be difficult for these players to get their reps on the receiving side of the ball. But they are draft picks and they want to get their feet wet in the NFL. So I think that it thrives, or they would thrive in this position. First off is Noel Williams. We've seen Noel Williams, and obviously he is a defensive player, but he has the experience and the speed on his side to be utilized on the special team side of the football, whether it be kick returns or punt returns. We saw him return a kickoff return, go for nearly 30 return yards against the Arizona Cardinals back in their first preseason game. And while he could definitely just be utilized as a depth piece in this area, it is a guy that needs to thrive in order to be considered. I do think that he is a player who could see a lot of time at this position. Compared to how the defensive back room is for the Kansas City Chiefs, it could be more of a avenue for him to succeed should he kind of do double duty. In my opinion, he has a way. He's kind of got a guy, and I know he's was placed on concussion protocol earlier in the offseason after that Seattle Seahawks game. But, if he's healthy and he's a way to get out there, I think that it would benefit the Kansas City Chiefs. Number two, though, Brashard Smith. Brashard Smith, man, he is the 7th-round pick for the Kansas City Chiefs, who could emerge himself in several different ways this season as a steal of a draft pick, whether it be in the returning role, as we're discussing, or in the running game. While he has had his ebbs and flubs in the game thus far, through the preseason games, it is a player to note. It's like, hey, he's got all this speed. Why don't we just put him on the field for the return game? We saw him return the football off a kick return, go for 26 yards against the Seattle Seahawks, and while he was also being used as a punt returner in his attempts, but he's still looking for a spot on this roster, and I think that it could be solidified in the punt return option. His speed is going to be the defining factor of whether or not he's going to be a make or break player in this position. I do think he's got a bright future rather. And the last rookie is Jalen Royals. Jalen Royals, he had a terrific kick return against the Seattle Seahawks, go for nearly 50 yards, 49 to be exact. And while he could necessarily be thrown around the entirety of the offense, he could definitely find his spot on the special teams. His speed is great. His ball handling skills have improved from what we've seen, and his confidence has got to be building going into the regular season. The two wide receiving options, though, wide receiver options who have been playing a little bit longer. As we saw, it was a moment that we haven't seen from Sky Moore in a second. And against the Seattle Seahawks, his punt return going back for a touchdown, 88 yards. Man, that's got to be a confidence builder. Now I know that Sky Moore is looking to become he's in the last year of his rookie deal. He's got to be a player who's got to step up should he make the team. But that 88-yard punt return has got to help his cause. If that is his role going into the season, they've got to at least try and find a way, or they're trying to find a way to make his situation work after being a second-round draft pick and not really panning out thus far. Another wide receiver who could also be in the same boat as Sky Moore is Tyquan Thornton, a speedster. They've got a lot of speed. Like I said multiple times, they got a lot of speed in that wide receiving room. And I do think that he's going to be a guy that you got to use on the returning side of the football. Excuse me. And I do think that if this is his spot, while, you got to keep in mind that they've got a lot of good receivers on the offensive side of the ball, whether it be Juju Smith, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice when he returns, Xavier Worthy. There's a lot of speed there and there's a lot of competition. But if Tyquan Thornton can find a way in both of those ways, I do think that he should thrive in the returning role. And obviously, which I wrote down on here is the obvious option, Nico Remigio. Man, he is a speedster, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs should not deter away from a guy who has shown nothing but success in a returning role. Last season, he was chef's kiss. This season, he's been great. The coaches have said that he's above, far and between the other returning options. You got to know that Nico Remigio's place on this football team is using his wheels to weave in and out of defenders and get those kick returns back for the Kansas City Chiefs. As always, though, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to follow me over on X at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss any coverage as we get closer to the 2025 NFL campaign. You can also follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI, where we post every story every day, exclusively free to you. Kansas City Chiefs on SI is the best stop to get your podcast and news information covering the Kansas City Chiefs. As always, ladies and gentlemen, be kind to one another, and I'll see you tomorrow.